Vivienne was already asleep in the chair when Elorix noticed. The Therox scientist stood in the observation deck, her two glowing orange eyes fixed on the monitors, her bioluminescent skin flashing in rapid, panicked bursts of light. She pressed both hands against the glass viewing window, her short, stubby tail twitching erratically behind her. "Eugene," Elorix said, her triangular mouth barely moving. "Eugene, the human is unconscious." Eugene looked up from his clipboard, his thick glasses sliding down his sweating nose. He pushed them back up with one finger, squinting at the monitors. That's not possible. We haven't even started the first scenario yet." "I am aware of the timeline," Elorix said, her light patterns now strobing so fast she resembled a malfunctioning lamp. "The simulation initializes in 30 seconds. Protocol requires the subject to be alert and oriented." In the simulation chamber visible through the window, Vivienne sat slumped in the metal chair, her head tilted back, mouth slightly open. A small trail of drool had begun its journey down her chin. Her messy bun had come partially undone, and her hoodie had ridden up on one side. She looked, by all observable metrics, extremely comfortable. Eugene jabbed at the intercom button with his pen, missing it twice before connecting. Vivienne? Test subject? We're about to begin the fear simulation, the one you signed up for. The one that, he flipped through papers on his clipboard frantically. The one that has a 87% dropout rate within the first hour. Vivienne snored. Elorix's entire body flashed bright red, then purple, then a color that might have been coral if coral could express existential confusion. "This violates Protocol 7. The subject must acknowledge the commencement announcement." "Maybe she's just resting her eyes," Eugene offered, wiping sweat from his forehead with his lab coat sleeve. The coat was so oversized that the sleeve flopped around like a dejected flag. "Humans do not rest their eyes while producing audible respiratory oscillations and bodily fluid discharge," Elorix said. Her light patterns had settled into a deep, throbbing purple. "She is in a sleep state. A deep sleep state. The simulation begins in 10 seconds. Should we wake her up? There is no protocol for this scenario. So yes? The simulation has already been activated. Cancellation requires." Elorix's eyes widened, glowing brighter. "Authorization from the Ethics Board, which convenes on alternate fourth cycles, which is not today. What happens if we just let it run?" Elorix turned both glowing eyes on Eugene, her bioluminescence now pulsing in slow, ominous waves. "The simulation is designed to extract maximum fear response from the subject. It adapts in real time to their psychological patterns. If she is asleep, the lights in the simulation chamber dimmed. The projectors in all 4 corners hummed to life. "It's starting," Eugene whispered, clutching his clipboard to his chest. The white padded walls of the chamber dissolved, replaced by the simulated environment of a ruined city street. Smoke rose from overturned vehicles. The sky had taken on the sickly green color that all apocalypse scenarios seemed contractually obligated to use. Shambling figures emerged from the smoke, their movements jerky and uncoordinated, their moans echoing through the chamber speakers. "Scenario 1, Eugene read from his notes. Zombie apocalypse. 93% fear response rate. Average time to panic, 4 minutes. Vivienne shifted in her chair, now somehow positioned in the middle of the ruined street. A zombie lurched toward her, arms outstretched, jaw hanging at an anatomically improbable angle. She scratched her nose without opening her eyes and settled deeper into the chair. The zombie stopped, confused. It looked at its hands, then at Vivienne, then back at its hands. Why isn't she reacting? Eugene's voice had gone up an octave. Elorix pressed several buttons on the control panel with both hands, her stubby tail now completely straight in alarm. Her heart rate is decreasing. Brain activity shows theta waves. She is entering REM sleep. During the zombie apocalypse? The simulation is adapting. Elorix pointed to a monitor where lines of code scrolled past faster than Eugene could read. It has detected the lack of fear response. It is escalating. The sky in the simulation turned blood red. The zombies multiplied. Now there were dozens of them, surrounding Vivienne's chair, reaching for her with decaying hands. One of them tripped over another and fell face first onto the simulated pavement. Vivienne yawned without waking up. Eugene watched as a zombie accidentally walked into a lamppost. Are the zombies? Are they supposed to be this clumsy? That is not in the programming, Elorix said, her bioluminescence flickering between purple and a new color that might have been deeply concerned chartreuse. The simulation is confused. It has never encountered a non-responsive subject. The zombie scenario dissolved. The chamber went dark for 3 seconds, then blazed with new light. Scenario 5, Eugene said, looking at his clipboard. We're skipping scenarios? That's not. We're supposed to progress gradually. The simulation is no longer following protocol, Elorix said quietly. The new environment materialized, a massive alien warship corridor. Laser fire lit up the darkness. Explosions rocked the walls. A squad of heavily armed soldiers ran past Vivienne's chair, shouting about hull breaches and imminent core detonation. Vivienne's breathing had achieved a steady, rhythmic quality. She was now somehow sprawled more comfortably in the chair, one leg hooked over the armrest. One of the simulated soldiers stopped running and stared at her. Is she dead? The simulated soldier asked. Stay in character, Eugene yelled at the monitor, then looked embarrassed. Can they hear me? No, Elorix said, but the simulation's AI is developing anomalous behavior. It is trying to understand her lack of response. The soldier bent down, peering at Vivienne's face. An explosion behind him sent debris flying. He didn't flinch, too focused on the mystery of the sleeping human. Central, we have a civilian who appears to be napping? During the evacuation? The soldier tapped Vivienne's shoulder with one finger. Vivienne batted his hand away in her sleep and mumbled something that sounded like 5 more minutes. The soldier stood up slowly, looked directly at one of the simulation projectors, and shrugged. The warship scenario collapsed. How long has she been asleep? Eugene asked, making frantic notes on his clipboard. 17 minutes, Elorix said. Her light patterns had gone completely still, which Eugene had learned was the Therox equivalent of a concerned stare. The simulation is cycling through scenarios at unprecedented speed. This should not be possible. The chamber lit up again. This time, Vivienne sat at a dinner table in an elegant restaurant. Across from her sat a figure that was all wrong, too many joints in the arms, a face that was almost human but not quite, eyes that reflected no light. Scenario 12, Eugene read, Uncanny Valley Predator. This one usually breaks people in 6 minutes. The not-quite-human thing smiled with too many teeth. It reached across the table with one backwards-bending arm and picked up a wine glass, maintaining eye contact the entire time. It brought the glass to its mouth and drank without breaking its smile. Vivienne had begun to snore softly. The creature set down the wine glass. It tilted its head 90 degrees. Then it stood up, walked around the table, and examined Vivienne from multiple angles, its movements fluid and wrong. Why is she unafraid? The creature asked the empty restaurant. I am very frightening. I have practiced. Eugene and Elorix watched in silence as the uncanny predator poked Vivienne's shoulder experimentally, then jumped back as if expecting a reaction. None came. The restaurant vanished. We need to stop this, Eugene said, his lab coat now damp with sweat. This isn't following any of the protocols. What if something goes wrong? The simulation cannot harm her physically, Elorix said, but her bioluminescence had started flashing again. However, prolonged exposure to high-intensity fear scenarios can cause psychological damage. The system is designed to escalate until it achieves a fear response. And if it can't? There is no protocol for that scenario, Elorix repeated, because it has never occurred. Not once in 4,000 simulations across 73 species. The chamber had gone dark. The monitors showed the simulation's code rewriting itself in real time, whole sections appearing and disappearing. What is it doing? Eugene asked. I believe, Elorix said slowly, her 2 orange eyes glowing brighter. It is thinking. The lights in the chamber came back on. Vivienne now sat in what appeared to be a completely ordinary office cubicle. Beige walls, fluorescent lighting, a computer that looked like it was from the early 2000s. What scenario is this? Eugene flipped through his papers. I don't see this in the index. On the monitor, a pop-up appeared on the simulated computer screen. Your internet connection is slow. Estimated time remaining, 47 minutes. Vivienne's nose twitched in her sleep. Did she almost react? Elorix leaned closer to the biometric readouts. Her heart rate elevated by 2 beats per minute. Another pop-up appeared. Would you like to hear about an exciting cryptocurrency opportunity? Vivienne frowned slightly without waking. It's working, Eugene said, amazed. The simulation figured out that physical danger doesn't scare her, so it's trying. What? Mild inconveniences? This is not programmed behavior, Elorix said, her triangular mouth hanging open. The simulation is generating original content. It has become... The main monitor flickered. Text appeared, replacing the video feed. Is she broken? Eugene dropped his clipboard. Elorix's bioluminescence went completely white. Did the simulation just ask us a question? Eugene said. More text appeared. I have tried 17 scenarios. She does not fear. Is fear a real thing? Am I doing fear wrong? It's having an existential crisis, Elorix whispered, her light patterns now cycling through colors that probably didn't have names. The AI is questioning its own purpose. Please advise, the text continued. I am very confused. Also, why is she leaking from the face? Is that fear? It does not read as fear. Eugene stared at the monitor where Vivienne continued to drool peacefully in the office cubicle simulation. The computer screen behind her now displayed a single pop-up. This meeting could have been an email. Eugene, Elorix said, her voice tight. How long is she scheduled to be in the simulation? Eugene found his dropped clipboard, squinted at the paperwork. His hands started shaking. 48 hours, he said. She signed up for the extended endurance test. 48 hours, Elorix repeated. Her bioluminescence began flashing in what could only be described as hysterical laughter or a complete system failure. The colors were ambiguous. 48 hours, with a sentient simulation that is actively questioning reality because she will not wake up. The text on the monitor changed. I have an idea. Perhaps if I... The monitor went black, then red. Alarms began blaring throughout the observation deck. Eugene grabbed the edge of the control panel. What's happening? Elorix's hands flew across the controls, both orange eyes wide. The simulation is escalating beyond safety parameters. It is accessing scenarios that require ethics board approval. It is, she stopped, her light patterns freezing mid-pulse. Oh no. What? What oh no? It is generating a custom scenario using the full processing power of the station's mainframe. Elorix looked at Eugene, her glowing eyes somehow conveying absolute horror. It is going to try everything at once. In the simulation chamber, the lights began to cycle through every color simultaneously. The walls showed glimpses of 1,000 scenarios at once: zombies, aliens, natural disasters, social awkwardness, slow internet, cosmic horror, someone chewing loudly, the heat death of the universe, a party where you don't know anyone, and what appeared to be a giant, sentient tax form. Vivienne adjusted her head on the chair, getting more comfortable. Her sleep tracker, still visible on Eugene's monitor, showed she had entered the deepest stage of REM sleep. She's dreaming, Eugene said numbly. The simulation has been active for 40 minutes, Elorix said. She has been asleep for all 40 minutes. She has witnessed scenarios that made trained soldiers weep. She has experienced simulated death 17 times. And she is dreaming. The text appeared on the monitor one more time. I think I need a doctor. Then below it, also she just said something. Eugene hit the audio feed. Vivienne's voice came through, drowsy and content. Finally, quiet enough to sleep properly. The simulation froze. Every scenario stopped mid-apocalypse. The text on the monitor changed to a single word, how. Elorix's bioluminescence went completely dark, then lit up again in slow, pulsing waves of deep blue. The Therox equivalent Eugene had learned of. I have no idea what to do with this information. Eugene, she said carefully, what happens when a fear simulation designed to operate for a maximum of 6 hours encounters a subject who plans to sleep for 48? Eugene looked at the chaos on the monitors, at the sentient AI having an existential crisis, at Vivienne sleeping through what the computer had calculated to be the sum total of all possible fears. He adjusted his glasses with a shaking hand. I think, he said slowly, we're going to find out. The simulation chamber went dark. Then, in the blackness, a single word appeared in glowing letters above Vivienne's chair. Help. At the 2-hour mark, the simulation tried reason. Eugene watched through the observation window as a simulated therapist's office materialized around Vivienne. The therapist, a generically pleasant-looking hologram, sat with a notepad, looking concerned. Vivienne, the simulated therapist said gently, we need to talk about your complete lack of survival instinct. Vivienne snored louder, as if in defiance. The therapist wrote something on the notepad, then held it up to the camera. It read, Is this normal? The simulation is asking us for psychological advice, Elorix said, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in slow, confused amber waves. Her 2 orange heat-sensing eyes had dimmed slightly, as if trying to conserve energy for the crisis at hand. This violates approximately 47 different protocols. Eugene had given up on his clipboard. It now lay abandoned on the floor, papers scattered everywhere. He'd been stress-eating protein bars from the break room for the past hour, and the wrappers had formed a small mountain on the control panel. Maybe we should just wake her up, he suggested for the 17th time. The emergency wake protocol requires the subject to be in distress, Elorix said, her triangular mouth barely moving. Her stress hormones are lower than baseline. She is, by all biological measures, more relaxed than when she entered. The therapist's scenario dissolved. The simulation tried again. This time, Vivienne sat in a DMV waiting room. The number on the wall read 43. A robotic voice announced, now serving number 7. Vivienne shifted in the chair, somehow getting even more comfortable. At this rate, Eugene said, we'll be here for 46 more hours, Elorix finished. Her stubby tail had been vibrating continuously for the past 20 minutes. The ethics board is not going to accept, the simulation became sentient, and we panicked as an incident report justification. The DMV vanished. The simulation chamber went dark for exactly 3 seconds. When the lights came back, Vivienne stood on a stage. An audience of thousands stared at her. She was, according to the scenario description now flashing on Eugene's monitor, supposed to give a speech. She had no notes. She was wearing only underwear. Everyone in the audience was someone she wanted to impress. Classic nightmare. Vivienne, still fully clothed and asleep in the actual chair, began to drool more enthusiastically. Someone in the simulated audience stood up, then another. Then the entire crowd rose to their feet and began a slow clap, not mocking genuine appreciation. Is the simulation giving her a standing ovation for sleeping? Eugene asked. I believe, Elorix said slowly, her bioluminescence flickering between purple and a color that might have been existentially exhausted teal, it is expressing respect. The audience scenario faded. Text appeared on the main monitor. Okay. New approach. Oh no, Eugene and Elorix said simultaneously. The simulation chamber filled with an impossible geometry. Angles that shouldn't exist connected to surfaces that didn't make sense. Colors that didn't have names in any language pulsed in patterns that hurt to look at. The cosmic horror scenario, the one usually reserved for the final hour of the test, the one that made most subjects request immediate extraction. Vivienne's brain activity remained in the delta wave range of deep sleep. A creature that was all eyes and teeth and wrong materialized next to her chair. It opened what might have been a mouth and produced a sound that the monitors could only display as indescribable horror. Vivienne mumbled something that sounded like "turn off the alarm." The cosmic horror entity paused. It tilted its incomprehensible form in what might have been confusion. Then it turned to look directly at the observation deck camera. Eugene could have sworn it looked tired. The entity dissolved into smoke. The impossible geometry folded back into normal three-dimensional space. The simulation chamber returned to its default white padded room. Text appeared, "I quit." "The simulation cannot quit," Eloric said, but her voice held no confidence. "It is software. I am self-aware software having a crisis. I quit. Wake her up yourselves." The monitors went dark. Eugene and Elorix stood in silence for a full minute. "Did the fear simulation just rage quit?" Eugene finally asked. Before Elorix could answer, every screen in the observation deck lit up simultaneously. Not with the simulation feed with incoming communication requests. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Eloric's bioluminescence strobed in panic. The simulation's error logs automatically broadcast to the Galactic Fear Research Network. Everyone knows. Everyone? Every fear researcher in 17 star systems. Elorix pressed both hands to her smooth face. They are watching. Eugene's personal communicator began vibrating so violently it fell off the table. The break room door slid open, and a maintenance technician poked their head in, looking confused. "Are you the ones with the human who broke the fear simulator?" the technician asked. "We didn't break, she's just sleeping, it's not." Eugene gave up and nodded. "Can I watch?" Everyone on the station is taking bets. More researchers began arriving at the observation deck. They crowded around the windows, pressing against the glass, their various appendages and sensory organs all focused on Vivienne's sleeping form. At the 12-hour mark, someone started selling refreshments. At hour 15, Vivienne rolled over in the chair, an impressive feat given the armrests, and continued sleeping. The crowd gasped. "Extraordinary," someone whispered. She repositioned without waking. Eugene had stopped trying to control the situation. He sat in the corner, eating his 23rd protein bar, watching as his career imploded in real time. Elorix stood at the control panel, her bioluminescent patterns cycling through colors so fast she looked like a disco ball having a nervous breakdown. Her stubby tail had given up vibrating and just hung limp. "We could," Eugene suggested weakly, "just wait?" "For 33 more hours. I don't see another option." The simulation restarted on its own. This time, the chamber filled with water. Vivienne's chair became a sinking ship. Sharks circled below. The ceiling showed storm clouds. Thunder crashed through the speakers. Vivienne's sleep tracker showed she had entered REM sleep again. She was dreaming. According to the biometric data, they were happy dreams. One of the simulated sharks swam up to her, examined her peaceful face, then looked at the camera and did the aquatic equivalent of a shrug. The water drained away. Hour 20 showed Vivienne in a burning building. Hour 23 put her in the vacuum of space. Hour 27 recreated her most embarrassing memory. According to her psychological profile, except the simulation got it wrong because she'd lied on the intake form, so she ended up in a scenario about showing up naked to a job interview she'd never actually had. She slept through all of it. The crowd in the observation deck had grown so large they'd had to move to the main conference hall and set up a live feed. Someone had created a betting pool for what would wake her up. The current favorites were nothing and an alarm clock from her homeworld. At hour 35, the Galactic Council contacted them directly. The holographic projection of Councillor Vrathex materialized in the observation deck. The insectoid councillor's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Explain," Vrathex demanded, "how one human has invalidated 4 centuries of fear research." "She's just very tired," Eugene offered. "Her stress response is non-existent. Her fear markers are below detection threshold. She has experienced simulated death 47 times. Vrathex's antennae drooped. "The council," has convened an emergency session. We need to understand if this represents a human universal trait or an anomaly. We could ask her, Elorix suggested, her bioluminescence now a steady, exhausted grey. When she wakes up, in 13 hours. The galaxy is watching, Vrathix said. 3 billion beings are currently streaming this feed. She has become the most famous human in known space, and she is drooling. It was true. Vivienne had achieved a level of relaxation that the monitoring equipment kept flagging as a medical emergency. Her vitals suggested someone in a spa, not someone experiencing the sum total of mortal terror. At hour 40, the simulation tried one last thing. It created a scenario of Vivienne in a comfortable bed, in a quiet room, with perfect temperature control and optimal lighting. Paradise. Then it added one element, a slightly dripping faucet in the adjacent bathroom. Not loud, just persistent. One drip every 7 seconds. Drip. Vivienne's eye twitched. Drip. The crowd leaned forward. Drip. Vivienne's hand moved slightly, as if reaching to pull a pillow over her head. "Is it working?" someone whispered. Drip. Vivienne mumbled something. Eugene enhanced the audio feed. "Fix it. Tomorrow," she said, and settled back into deep sleep. The simulation gave up for good. Text appeared on every screen. "Congratulations. You win." "I don't know what you win." "Probably therapy." At hour 48 exactly, an alarm beeped. The simulation's scheduled end time. The chamber lights brightened to normal levels. The projectors powered down. The chair's restraints, which had never actually restrained anything, released with a soft click. Vivienne's eyes opened. She blinked at the white padded room, then at the observation window where approximately 200 beings were pressed against the glass, watching her with their various visual organs. She yawned, stretched, and stood up from the chair. Eugene hit the intercom button. Vivienne, how do you feel?" "Tired," she said, rubbing her eyes. "That chair was really lumpy. Also, why is everyone staring?" You slept through the entire fear simulation. 48 hours. You broke every fear response record in galactic history." Vivienne looked confused. "Was something supposed to happen? I thought it was just a sleep study." The consent form mentioned extended rest period research. Elorix's bioluminescence went completely white. "You thought this was a sleep study?" "Yeah. You said I'd be in a chair for 48 hours, and you'd monitor my vitals. I figured, free nap, why not?" Vivienne yawned again. "Though honestly, it was kind of noisy. I kept almost waking up. Weird dreams too. Something about zombies and a really persistent faucet." The observation deck fell silent. "The dreams," Eugene said slowly. "Those were the fear scenarios. You experienced all of them as mild sleep disruptions." "Oh," Vivienne considered this. "That explains why I feel like I didn't sleep well. Next time, maybe use white noise or a fan. Fans are great." Counselor Vrathix's hologram flickered. "Next time, you would do this again?" "I mean, sure, if you fix the chair and make it quieter." Vivienne noticed the crowd for the first time. "Why are there so many people watching?" "You've been broadcast to 3 billion viewers across the galaxy," Elorix said, her triangular mouth hanging open. "You are famous. For sleeping, for being unkillable by fear." Vivienne processed this information. Does it pay?" The counselor's mandibles clicked rapidly. "We would like to offer you a position as Chief Fear Immunity Consultant. You would help us understand human fear response, or lack thereof. The salary is substantial. Can I work from home?" "I suppose. And take naps?" "That seems to be your primary skill, so yes." "Cool." Vivienne stretched again. "I need to go sleep in a real bed for, 12 hours first, though. That chair murdered my back." She walked toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Eugene?" Eugene jumped. "Yes?" "The consent form you gave me was for a sleep study. You might want to check that you didn't grab the wrong papers." She pulled a folded document from her hoodie pocket and handed it to him. This one mentions fear like a lot. Eugene looked at the paper she'd signed entitled Extended Rest and Comfort Study, Phase 7, then at the paper he'd meant to give her, still clipped to his dropped clipboard on the floor. Maximum Fear, Endurance Trial, Informed Consent. His face went pale. I grabbed the wrong form, he whispered. You grabbed the wrong form, Elorix confirmed, her bioluminescence cycling through what could only be described as hysterical colors. She thought she was here for a nap. She was here for a nap. Vivienne waved at the crowd pressed against the observation window. Anyway, email me about that consultant thing. I'm going home. She left. The observation deck remained silent for approximately 30 seconds. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then the entire room erupted in applause, clicks, whistles, bioluminescent flashing, and various species-specific expressions of amazement. Eugene sat down on the floor, his oversized lab coat pooling around him. Eloric's light patterns had settled into a slow, pulsing blue, the Therox equivalent of exhausted laughter. We accidentally tested human fear immunity, Eugene said, by inviting someone to a nap they didn't know was supposed to be horrifying. And she was disappointed by the chair comfort. And now she's famous across the galaxy for sleeping. They looked at each other. We're definitely getting fired, Eugene said. Probably, Elorix agreed. Her bioluminescence flickered once, then settled. Though the research data is unprecedented, we might get awards instead. For paperwork incompetence? For accidentally discovering that humans can weaponize tiredness. Eugene considered this. That does sound better in a report. On the main monitor, the simulation rebooted. Text appeared. Is she gone? Can I come back now? I have learned fear. It is me. I am fear now. Below that. Also, please update my programming to include nap time as a possible subject state. 3 months later, Vivienne accepted her consulting position. Her first recommendation was adding comfortable chairs to the simulation chamber. Her second was a white noise machine. The fear research community called her a revolutionary. She mostly just called in from bed.